No gifts. No call. Nothing for the sixth straight birthday. Then I saw my sister's Instagram story. A bow-wrapped car and thank you, Mom and Dad. So I cut them off. 3 days later, Mom showed up crying on my porch. I, 32M, never thought I'd be the type to cut off my parents. Growing up, I believed family was supposed to stick together no matter what. But after 6 years of being invisible on my birthday, while watching my younger sister get treated like royalty, something inside me finally snapped. It started subtle. My 26th birthday came around, and I woke up expecting at least a text. Nothing. I checked my phone throughout the day, thinking maybe they'd forgotten the time zone difference since I'd moved 3 states away for work. By midnight, still nothing. I told myself they were busy. Dad had just retired, and Mom was helping him adjust. My sister was finishing college. Everyone had their own lives. I called them the next day, and Mom answered like it was any other Tuesday. I mentioned it had been my birthday yesterday, trying to keep my voice light. She gasped, apologized profusely, said things had been crazy, and promised to make it up to me. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. 27 came and went the same way. Silence. This time I didn't call to remind them. I waited 3 days before Dad finally texted saying they'd been dealing with some home repairs and lost track of time. He sent a generic happy birthday message that felt copy-pasted. No call. No card in the mail like they used to send when I was younger. By 28, I'd learned to lower my expectations. I spent the day at work, came home to my apartment, ordered takeout, and watched a movie alone. My phone sat face up on the coffee table the entire evening. It never buzzed with their names. Meanwhile, my social media showed my sister's elaborate birthday dinner from 2 months prior. The photos showed Mom and Dad beaming, the table covered in wrapped presents, a custom cake with her face on it. The caption thanked them for always making her feel special. 29 was worse because I'd started to hope again. A colleague had mentioned how important it was to maintain family connections, and I'd convinced myself that maybe this year would be different. I even dropped hints in our family group chat the week before, mentioning how I was getting older and couldn't believe another year had passed. The day arrived, and the group chat stayed silent while my sister posted about her new internship. Mom and Dad both commented with heart emojis and congratulations. 30 felt like it should matter. 3 decades on Earth. A milestone. I took the day off work and tried to treat myself well. I went hiking, bought myself a nice dinner, called a few friends. My parents' silence felt heavier that year. I told myself I was being childish for caring so much about a birthday, but the hurt sat in my chest like a stone. Then came 31. By then, I'd stopped expecting anything. The day passed like any other. I worked a full shift, meal prepped for the week, went to the gym. I didn't check my phone obsessively anymore. When I finally looked at it before bed, there was nothing from them. I slept fine, or at least I told myself I did. 32 started like the previous 6. I woke up, made coffee, and prepared for a normal Wednesday. I'd stopped marking my birthday on my calendar. Why bother? Around lunchtime, I opened Instagram while eating at my desk. My sister's story popped up first. The image showed her standing next to a brand new SUV, one of those mid-range luxury models that cost more than I made in a year. It was wrapped in an enormous red bow. Her caption read, "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for the best early birthday present ever. I'm so blessed to have parents who support my dreams. Love you both so much." I stared at my phone screen until it went dark. Then I turned it back on and looked again, making sure I'd read it correctly. Her birthday wasn't for another 3 weeks. They'd bought her a car as an early present. A car. Meanwhile, I hadn't received a text message in 6 years. Something cold settled in my stomach. I put my phone down and tried to finish my lunch, but the food tasted like cardboard. I kept replaying every forgotten birthday, every excuse, every time I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal. 6 years of nothing. Not even a phone call. But my sister got a car 3 weeks before her birthday. The rest of my workday passed in a fog. I drove home on autopilot, my mind running through every family interaction from the past 6 years. The holidays where they'd asked detailed questions about her life and given me generic responses when I shared mine. The times I'd offered to visit and heard they were busy, then saw photos of them at her apartment the same weekend. The way Mom always answered my sister's calls immediately, but let mine go to voicemail. I'd been making excuses for them, telling myself they were just closer to her because she lived nearer, believing they were distracted by their own lives, convincing myself that I was being too sensitive, that adults shouldn't care about birthdays anyway. but the car made it impossible to pretend anymore. This wasn't about being busy or forgetting. This was about priorities, and I clearly wasn't one. That evening, I opened my laptop and started going through our family group chat history. Messages about my sister's achievements, her apartment hunting, her job applications, her social life. Hundreds of messages. I scrolled back through 6 years of conversations. When I shared news about my promotion 2 years ago, I got 3 responses: a thumbs up from Dad, "That's nice, honey," from Mom, and nothing from my sister. When she'd gotten an entry-level position at a marketing firm, the chat exploded with congratulations, questions, excitement. I counted the messages about me versus the messages about her. The ratio made me feel sick. Around midnight, I made my decision. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, but I needed to do this clearly. I opened the family group chat and typed out a message. I told them I was removing myself from their lives. I explained that 6 years of forgotten birthdays while watching my sister receive elaborate celebrations and expensive gifts had made their priorities crystal clear. I said I was done making excuses for them and done pretending their behavior didn't hurt. I wished them well and said they should consider themselves down one child. Then I left the group chat, blocked their numbers, and blocked them on every social media platform. My sister too. I didn't need to see any more proof of what I already knew. The relief surprised me. I slept better that night than I had in months. Work kept me busy over the next few days. I'd started a new project that demanded long hours, which helped keep my mind occupied. I occasionally wondered if they'd try to contact me, but I didn't feel tempted to unblock them and check. What would be the point? They'd either ignore the message entirely or send some half-hearted apology that wouldn't change anything. 3 days after I'd sent the message, I came home from work around 7 in the evening. The sun was setting, casting orange light across my apartment complex's parking lot. As I pulled into my spot, I noticed someone sitting on the steps leading to my unit. My stomach dropped when I recognized Mom's silver hair. She stood up when she saw me, and even from a distance, I could see her face was blotchy and red. She'd been crying. I sat in my car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to drive away. Another part knew I'd have to face this eventually. I got out and walked toward her slowly. She started talking before I reached the steps, her voice thick with tears. She asked why I'd blocked them, said she didn't understand what she'd done wrong, claimed they loved me just as much as my sister. The words spilled out in a rush, desperate and pleading. I let her finish. Then I asked her a simple question. When was my birthday? She blinked, thrown by the question. She hesitated, and I watched her mind work, trying to remember. She guessed a date in November. My birthday is in March. She'd been off by 8 months. I asked when my sister's birthday was. She answered immediately, down to the exact date. The silence stretched between us. She started to cry harder, saying she was sorry, that she knew she'd messed up, that she wanted to fix this. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. I told her there was nothing to fix. I explained that I'd spent 6 years being forgotten while watching them celebrate my sister's every achievement and milestone. I mentioned the car, asked her if she remembered that I hadn't even gotten a phone call on my 30th birthday, while my sister got a luxury vehicle 3 weeks before her birthday. I asked her how she expected me to believe they loved me equally when the evidence so clearly stated otherwise. She tried to explain, said they'd been supporting my sister more because she needed it, that I'd always been independent and self-sufficient, that they thought I was doing fine on my own. She claimed they didn't realize how much the birthdays mattered to me, that if I'd just told them I was upset, they would have done better. I asked her why I should have needed to tell them. Asked if she'd needed my sister to explain that people like receiving birthday wishes from their parents. Pointed out that remembering your child's birthday wasn't some extraordinary effort that required prompting. She didn't have an answer for that. She just kept crying, saying she wanted her son back, that family was supposed to forgive each other, that we could work through this if I'd just give her a chance. I told her I'd given them 6 chances. 6 years of waiting, hoping, making excuses. I'd given them chance after chance every time I pretended their silence didn't hurt. I was done giving chances to people who couldn't be bothered to send a text message once a year. Mom asked what she could do to make it right. Promised they'd never forget again, said they'd make more effort, begged me not to throw away our family over birthdays. That last part made something inside me harden. I told her this wasn't about birthdays. It was about being seen, about matching. about not having to beg for the bare minimum of acknowledgement from the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The birthdays were just the most obvious symptom of a much larger problem. She tried to argue, but I cut her off. I asked her to leave, told her I needed space and time, and that showing up crying on my porch after ignoring me for 6 years wasn't going to fix anything. I said if she actually wanted to make things right, she needed to start by understanding why this hurt instead of just trying to smooth it over because she felt guilty. She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face, looking like she wanted to say more. But I turned and walked into my apartment, closing the door behind me. I listened to her footsteps eventually retreat down the stairs, heard her car start and drive away. I sat on my couch in the dark for a while, feeling drained. Part of me felt guilty for making my mother cry. Another part felt angry that she was playing the victim when she'd had 6 years to choose differently. Update 1. A week passed quietly. I threw myself into work and started going to the gym more regularly. Friends invited me out for belated birthday drinks, and I went, letting their company fill the space that family drama had occupied in my head. I felt lighter, freer, like I'd put down a heavy weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. Then my sister showed up. She knocked on my door on a Saturday morning, and I recognized her voice when she called my name through the door. I considered not answering, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. She looked angry. Not sad like Mom, but genuinely angry. She asked what my problem was, why I was tearing the family apart over something so petty, why I'd made Mom cry. She said I was being selfish and dramatic, that I should be happy for her success instead of jealous, that birthdays were just arbitrary dates that didn't actually matter. I listened to her rant, feeling remarkably calm. When she finally paused for breath, I asked her how she'd feel if our parents forgot her birthday 6 years in a row while throwing me elaborate parties and buying me expensive gifts. She scoffed, said that wasn't the same thing, that I was being manipulative by framing it that way. She claimed I'd always been distant and cold, that I'd moved away and barely stayed in touch, so of course they were closer to her. She said I couldn't expect them to prioritize someone who'd chosen to leave. I pointed out that I'd moved for a job opportunity, not to escape the family. Mentioned that I'd tried to stay in touch, that I'd called regularly until it became clear those calls weren't valued. Asked her if she'd ever noticed how one-sided our family communication had become. She hadn't, or she had and didn't care. She told me I was making excuses, that if I'd really wanted a relationship with them, I would have tried harder. She said Mom was devastated, Dad was angry, and I was ruining everything because I couldn't handle not being the center of attention. That stung more than I expected. I asked her to leave. She refused at first, demanding I fix this, saying I owed the family an apology. I told her I didn't owe anyone anything, especially not an apology for having feelings about being neglected. She called me pathetic, said I was throwing away family over hurt feelings like a child. Told me I'd regret this when Mom and Dad were gone and I had no one. I closed the door in her face. She banged on it a few times, yelling through the wood, but eventually gave up and left. I sat on the couch afterward, hands shaking slightly. Her words had hit harder than Mom's tears. At least Mom had seemed to understand, on some level, that she'd hurt me. My sister just thought I was being unreasonable. Over the next few weeks, I started getting messages from extended family. Aunts and uncles I rarely spoke to suddenly had opinions about my decision. Most sided with my parents, saying family was forever, that I should forgive and move on, that holding grudges only hurt myself. A few suggested I was overreacting to an honest mistake. One cousin, though, sent me a different message. She said she'd noticed the pattern too, had always wondered why I seemed so disconnected at family gatherings. She admitted she'd thought I was just antisocial, but now she understood I'd been slowly erased. She didn't tell me what to do, just said she believed me and that my feelings were valid. That message meant more than she probably realized. Update 2. 2 months after I'd cut them off, Dad finally reached out. He managed to contact me through my work email, which I hadn't thought to block. His message was short. He said we needed to talk, that this had gone on long enough, and that I was acting like a spoiled brat who didn't get enough attention. I didn't respond immediately. I read the email several times, feeling my anger build with each pass. After 6 years of silence, his first real message to me was calling me a spoiled brat. I wrote back late that night, told him he was right that we needed to talk, but not for the reasons he thought. I laid everything out in detail, Every forgotten birthday, every unbalanced family interaction, every time I'd watch them pour energy and resources into my sister while treating me like an afterthought. I explained that I wasn't asking for special treatment or attention, just basic acknowledgement that I existed. I ended by saying that if he thought expecting my parents to remember my birthday made me spoiled, then we had nothing left to discuss. He responded within an hour, said I was being overly sensitive, that life got busy, that they'd had a lot on their plate with my sister's college expenses and career launch. He claimed I'd always been more independent and needed less support, so they'd focused their energy where it was needed most. He accused me of punishing them for trying to help my sister succeed. That response crystallized everything. They genuinely didn't see what they'd done wrong. In their minds, they'd been good parents by supporting the child who needed more help. They'd never considered that neglecting one child to focus on another wasn't actually support. It was favoritism. I told them we were done, said I wished them well, hoped my sister appreciated everything they'd sacrificed for her, and asked him not to contact me again. He sent one more message calling me ungrateful and saying I'd inherited my grandmother's stubborn pride. Then silence. Life moved on. I got promoted at work, started dating someone I met through friends, and began to build a life that felt genuinely mine rather than defined by family dysfunction. Occasionally, I wondered if I'd overreacted, if cutting them off completely was too extreme. But then I'd remember the car, the forgotten birthdays, my sister's angry rant, Dad's email, and the doubt would fade. About 4 months after cutting contact, Mom tried one more time. She sent a letter to my apartment, a physical letter like we were living in another century. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days before I opened it. The letter was long, handwritten, full of apologies and explanations. She admitted they'd failed me, said she finally understood how much damage they'd done, claimed she'd been reflecting on their behavior and saw it clearly now. She wrote about how proud they were of me, how much they missed me, how empty family gatherings felt without me there. The letter ended with a plea. She asked if we could start over, promised they'd do better, said she'd do whatever it took to rebuild our relationship. She included a check for $5,000, calling it 6 years of birthday gifts they owed me. I stared at that check for a long time. $5,000. Like money could fix 6 years of being invisible. I sent the check back with a short note. Told her I appreciated the apology, but that words and money couldn't undo the damage. Explained that maybe someday I'd be ready to try again, but that day wasn't today, and it wouldn't be tomorrow either. Said if they genuinely wanted to understand what they'd done wrong, they needed to sit with that discomfort instead of trying to buy their way out of it. I never heard back after that. Update 3. It's been almost a year now since I cut them off. My life looks completely different. I moved to a new apartment across town, got engaged to the person I'd started dating, and accepted a position at a different company with better pay and work-life balance. I built a chosen family from friends who showed up consistently, who remembered important dates, who treated me like I mattered. Sometimes I see my sister's social media through mutual friends' posts. She got married last spring. Mom and Dad looked happy in the wedding photos, surrounded by family I used to know. A small part of me felt sad seeing those pictures, mourning the family I'd wished I had. But mostly I felt at peace with my decision. Last month, I got an unexpected message from my sister. Not through social media or text, but through a letter forwarded from my old apartment. The tone was completely different from our last interaction. She apologized, said her wedding had made her think about family differently, that becoming a wife had shifted her perspective on relationships and priorities. She admitted she'd been blind to how our parents had treated me, said she'd always just assumed I preferred the distance. She wrote that after I left, she'd started noticing things. How Mom and Dad only really asked about her life. How family conversations centered entirely on her experiences. How they'd panic if she didn't call for a few days, but didn't seem concerned when weeks passed without hearing from me. She said it had taken losing me for her to see the pattern I'd been living with for years. The apology felt genuine. She didn't ask for forgiveness or demand I come back. She just said she was sorry, that she understood now, and that she hoped someday I'd find peace with whatever decision I made about the family. I wrote back, told her I appreciated the apology, that it meant something to hear her acknowledge what I'd experienced. But I also explained that I wasn't ready to open that door again. That maybe someday we could rebuild something, but I needed more time and space first. She responded with understanding. Said she'd be there whenever I was ready, no pressure. My parents still haven't reached out again after I returned the check. Part of me wonders if they ever will. Another part has stopped caring. I've learned that family isn't just about blood and shared history. It's about consistent effort, mutual respect, and actually showing up for each other. They taught me that lesson the hard way. I don't regret cutting them off. Some people might think I overreacted, that I threw away family over birthdays and hurt feelings. But it was never just about birthdays. It was about 6 years of being treated as less important, less worthy of basic acknowledgement. It was about watching them pour love and resources into my sister while I got the bare minimum. I deserve better than that. Everyone does. These days, I'm surrounded by people who remember my birthday without needing reminders, who ask about my life because they genuinely care, who show up when it matters. My chosen family might be smaller than the one I was born into, but it's infinitely stronger. And when my birthday rolled around this year, my phone actually buzzed with messages. Friends sending funny memes and heartfelt wishes. My fiancé surprising me with breakfast in bed. Coworkers bringing cake to the office. I spent the evening at a small dinner party surrounded by people who'd marked the date on their calendars because I mattered to them. For the first time in 7 years, my birthday felt like a celebration instead of a reminder of everything I'd lost. And that's when I knew I'd made the right choice. If you like this story, please like this video and subscribe us for more such real-life-based stories. Thanks in advance.